Hello again, everyone. I'm going to do another recording on getting it going with this Excel spreadsheet project and a nice lead into function notation. Um, so let's start out with just a quick example. I'm going to look and then we'll get to the file itself in a minute. But this is actually how I'm going to compute your final grade. This is what our syllabus states, that the quizzes are 10%, the homework's 30%, and each exam is going to be 15%. The way we want to think about that is that 10% we want to think about as 10 points out of 100, and the 30% for the homework is going to be 30 points out of 100, and each one of the exams being 15% means 15 points each for points each out of 115 times 460, so we get a total of 100 points across possible for all those categories. Let's just do an example because it'll make it simpler on paper here to help us to understand what we're going to need to do when we go over to the spreadsheets. All right, now I'm going to do a couple examples here, and one thing we're going to be taking use of is how we compute percentages. So we know we always have to convert. If we're given a percentage, we got to convert it to a decimal number, but then we always multiply that by the whole to get the portion of the part. Okay, so for instance, if a student completed 300 out of 375 homework points that semester, then what would their homework average be? Well, 300 over 375 comes out to, if you do this on a calculator, 0.8 or 80%. Now what we would want to compute then would be, what is 80% of 30? Because those are how many homework points we could earn. All right, and then we would just simply do 0.8 or 0.80 times 30 to get our value. That comes out to 24. So we get 24 points that individual student. All right, now separate from that, let's do a different calculation. That was just to kind of get us warmed up. Let's compute the final average for a student with the following scores. So their quiz average was 118.5 out of 130. All right, so we first got to compute the percentage, which we're going to do the 118.5, the portion divided by the whole. That'll convert or determine in a decimal form what the quiz percent average is. And then if the quizzes are worth 10 points, we're going to multiply that by 10. So we're going to times that by 10. All right, I'm just going to leave it like that for now, and then we're going to do a similar thing for each one. For these ones, we got to compute the percentage by taking the part divided by the whole. That will give us the percent in decimal form, and then we're going to multiply that by 30. All right, I'm not worrying about what those are going to come out to. All right, again, we're going to let Excel handle this. But for the rest of these, we're given the exam scores, the raw scores, and we're assuming that these exams are out of 100. So to convert one of these to a percentage, we would take the 78 divided by 100. Well, that's just converting from a percentage to a decimal, and we know that we just move the decimal place 2 places to the right. We get 0.78. All right, so for the first exam, it's going to be 0.78, and that's worth 15 points times 15. So find the percentage, multiply it by the whole. The max you can get is 15 percentage points out of 100 for exam 1. For exam 2, the student got 79, so 0.79 times 15. Similar for the other two, for exam 3 and then for exam 4. Now, I'm not going to do this on the screen, but you can pause it and go to a Desmos or go to a calculator, and what we want to do is compute these individual numbers and then add the results. So we're really going to be taking each one of these results and adding them together. If you do sum them up, we're going to end up getting an average of 87.8. I'm just going to round it to 3 decimal places, 15. Okay, so that type of calculation is something we are going to be doing in Microsoft Excel now, and you're going to need to do the same thing when you do your quiz project. All right, so let's go over to that now. And I'm going to quickly show how to open the file if you are working in Excel Online. So if you open up Excel Online, I've already downloaded the file. So if you click download or just click on it, it'll download it in Chrome. It goes to the upper kind of right corner with that down arrow. All right, right there. Now, if we go back to Excel, if you're using Excel Online, you're going to go to File, Open, and then hit down here, Open Files from Device. And then you just need to navigate to your Downloads folder from this window. Here's my downloads folder. There's the file. Click it, open it up, and then it'll say it'll upload to my files in OneDrive, etc., and it should load that in there. I just got a pop-up. Okay, not that. Okay, there's a lot of pop-ups there. Okay, this should have filtered it in. Okay, and it does. It opens it up in a new tab if you're going to do it in Excel Online. And again, that's fine. I could do everything in here. I'm just going to do it just because it's a little bit simpler for me in the desktop version. So I'm going to navigate over there now. All right, so I've got that open now. And again, what we're basically going to do, if you look at this, when you open this spreadsheet up, you're going to see kind of two portions. One where I have the quiz scores here, and when you're going to compute the quiz average, notice I'm telling you at the bottom here that the total number of quiz points is 130, like it was in the example before. And then down below, I've got the exam scores for all the students from this imaginary class, along with their homework raw score, total out of 375. And then what we're going to do is compute the homework average and then compute the overall course average. And I'm going to show you how to do it, and you can mimic that for the Excel project. All right, so first things first, what we want to do is we want to, for each one of these students, we want to add up these scores here, right? Add them up, and then we're going to divide by 130. So I'm going to hit the sum command, add them together, hit divided by 5. Okay, the sum command's a built-in one that's just going to add up those values there, and then not divided by 5, divided by 130. And then, like we showed in the last video, we are going to. So let me just close this other file down because I don't want to be working there anymore. Now, like we showed in the previous recording, we're going to go back to the cell where we made the formula. Then take our cursor to the lower right corner. Once we see the black plus sign, we're going to left click and we're going to hold that down. I went too far. So I want to go and stop right there. And then we want to copy and paste these values. Don't worry about these little warning signs there. We're going to hit copy, so you're going to right click or hit Control C. Either way, with Microsoft Excel, one thing you got to be careful of, you can't just hit Control V here. If I do that, it gives me an error. So I'm going to undo that. What you want to do is click on this first cell, hit and right click with your mouse. If you have an Apple device, I don't know what the equivalent of that would be, but there is a way to do it. I did it with a student recently. And what you want to do is there's different pasting options. You want to choose the second one, which is just to paste the values in. The reason those errors came up is because we're copying and pasting cells that we came from a formula, and those are referencing other cells. Okay, for the homework average, and we want that as a decimal number. The total number of homework points is 375. So in this cell, we basically just want to take the number that's in cell G37, or again, just hit an equal sign, then click on the cell you're talking about that you want to reference, divide that by 375. There's your homework average as a decimal number. Click back on the cell you made the formula. Now we're going to do the drag down thing again to get the homework average as a decimal. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to compute the course average. I'm going to do it all in one shot here, so just pay attention. If you have to rewind it, you can. Start with an equal sign. The quizzes were worth 10%, so we're going to take our quiz average, which is in cell F37, and we're going to multiply that by 10. The homework is 30 points, 30%, so we're going to take our homework average as a decimal number, and we're going to multiply that by 30, because there was 30 points worth of homework in the final average. Now, each exam's worth 15%. All right, so we got to convert these percentages here, 68, 72, 76, etc., to percentages or to decimal numbers first. Then we're going to multiply by 15. So we're going to do B37, or click on it, divided by 100, close the parentheses, then multiply that by 15. Similar for the next one. We're going to take this thing we want, that cell there, C37, we're going to divide it by 100 to convert it to a decimal, multiply it by 15. Plus, and then we're going to do D37 divided by 100, multiply by 15. Plus, and then do the last one. Again, this is a weighted average, so that's why we have to multiply by these category weights. E37 divided by, notice it highlights the cell, divided by 100 times 15. All right, and then we can do the pull down thing. All right, and I'll do that now. So again, click back single click, not double click, single click on the cell. You made the formula, go to the lower right corner until we see the black plus sign. Left click, drag it down, boom, boom, there we go. Okay, I'm just going to point something out. If you were following the previous calculation there, you saw all this dividing by 100 and then multiplying it by 15. Well, if we're multiplying by 15 and dividing by 100, that would be the same as multiplying by 0.15. And we're doing that for each of the entries in cell B, C, D, and E. So another way to compute this average, okay, I gotta fix what I did there because I screwed that up. Okay, just undo that. Would be to do the following. All right, so quiz average would be the same. That times 10 plus homework average times 30. Another way to do this would be to do 0.15, so 15%, and then times each one of these values. So we could do either B37 plus C37, or we could do the sum command again, and then we could sum up these ones here, the first four, close this parentheses for the sum command, close the parentheses for the multiplication, and we'll get the same exact value, and then do the drag down thing here. Okay. All right, now for what you're going to do, as indicated there in Lumen, you're going to be the 20th student. You're going to put in what you got so far for exam 1. I still got a great exam 2. What you hope to get it for exam 3 and 4. What you hope your quiz average and homework average to be at the end of the semester. And I want you to recompute the class average. I'm going to ask you to find your course average. And then somewhere down here, I want you to use the average command and the median command, or whatever is indicated there, to compute the course average with yours added in. So you're going to be the 20th one, and you're going to put in those two statistics there. Okay. And just read the instructions carefully there for the project. I want you to complete that in a spreadsheet, save it somewhere, and then email it to me either as a Lumen message or an ECC email. Again, what you're going to do is put yourself in as the 20th student, and then after you do that, compute your final course average, and then find the mean or average and the median of the entire class's course average with yourself added in. All right, last thing I want to do here is I want to talk about how this is applicable to function notation. So in Excel, what did we see? We had to start with an equal sign all the time, but we used either built-in commands like average, all right, and another one we did was sum a few times. There's other ones that we did across these two videos, but why I like to do this as a lead-in for function notation in math is because this gives you the name of the function. And then after we have to use parentheses there, all right, and then this is the input for the function. That the input goes inside the parentheses. So again, the name of the function would be sum. We see parentheses, and then we put the input inside here. That is what function notation is in math. So we're going to use this notation, f of x, and you're going to start to see that in the textbook and in videos, where now we're calling f the name of the function, and the input is whatever the independent variable is, typically x, or a lot of times we use the variable x there. So function notation isn't just something that is convenient for math. It actually comes up when you're using spreadsheets like Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets, those built-in functions. All right, also just look at this notation quick. I'm going to go back over into Excel and then just do one more average. Notice this little, if it's kind of hard to see in here, it's got an f sub x, and that's telling us that's a built-in function, very akin to the function notation here.